All right, let's dive in. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going deep into a real cult classic,
Oh, yeah.
Big Trouble in Little China.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, this movie, it's got it all, right? It's action, it's comedy, it's martial arts.
Got magic. It's got
It's got magic, it's got Kurt Russell with a mullet and a trucker hat.
the whole deal.
The whole deal. And we're going to be drawing on some great insights from the Retro Rewind podcast to
Yeah, Max and Riley, they know their stuff.
yeah, Max and Riley, they really break it down. So, when you think 80s action movie, you think like, I don't know, Predator or Die Hard.
Yeah, straight up muscles and explosions.
Yeah, muscles, explosions, a lone wolf hero who always gets the girl.
Right, right.
But Big Trouble in Little China, well, it throws all those expectations out the window.
It really does.
It really does. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so much fun.
I think so, too.
So let's talk about that. Like, how does it kind of like play with those action movie tropes?
Well, I mean, you got Jack Burton, right?
Okay, yeah, Jack Burton, the supposed hero, right?
Yeah.
Played by Kurt Russell, like we said.
Yeah, he looks the part, right? I mean, he's got the tough guy swagger. He's spouting all these one-liners.
But he's not exactly competent.
No, he's not. I mean, that's the brilliance of it, right? He's almost a parody of the typical action hero.
A parody.
Yeah, he's like this bumbling, clueless guy who kind of just stumbles his way through this whole mystical mess.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got Wang Chi, who is like the actual hero, the martial arts master.
Right, with like a real mission.
Yeah, he's got a purpose. He's trying to rescue his fiancée. He knows what he's doing.
Exactly, he's focused.
Jack is just along for the ride, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. He thinks he's in charge, but really he's just reacting to everything that's happening around him.
Right, and it's hilarious.
Oh, it's so funny.
It's so funny because we, the audience, we're kind of in the same boat as Jack, right?
Yeah.
We're just as confused and bewildered by all this crazy stuff as he is.
Like, we're thrown into this world of Chinese sorcery, and we're just trying to keep up.
Right, and it makes the whole experience that much more, I don't know, immersive.
Yeah, and fun. You're not just watching the hero be awesome. You're experiencing the chaos right alongside him.
Exactly. Okay, but speaking of chaos, we got to talk about the visuals in this movie, right?
Oh, yeah, the visuals.
I mean, this is John Carpenter, so you know it's going to be stylish.
Oh, absolutely. It's so distinct.
But this is beyond stylish. This is like full-on fantastical.
It's wild.
We've got like floating swordsmen. We've got lightning bolts flying everywhere. We've got
monsters. Don't forget the monsters.
You've got monsters, and it's all so over the top and kind of insane, but in a good way.
In the best way.
In the best way.
And what's amazing is, a lot of those effects, those were practical effects.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they built these elaborate sets. They had these crazy costumes.
Wow, that's impressive.
And it gives it this really tangible, almost like tactile quality.
Yeah, like you could reach out and touch it.
Exactly. You don't get that with CGI,
Right, right. It's like with CGI, you kind of know it's fake, even if it looks good,
Right. But with the practical effects, there's just something about it that feels more real.
It's more immersive, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that really adds to the whole experience of the movie.
It really pulls you into that world.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that makes it so unique, right? This blend of like classic Western action movie stuff with this Chinese mythology and folklore.
Yeah, you've got like gunfights happening alongside these like mystical martial arts battle.
Yeah, it's like cowboys versus sorcerers.
Cowboys versus sorcerers. I love it.
And on paper, it sounds crazy, right?
Right. It shouldn't work.
But it does. It totally does.
It's magic. It's movie magic.
Okay, but we can't talk about Big Trouble in Little China without talking about the music.
Oh, yeah. The music is epic. It's so good. It's pure John Carpenter, like that synth-heavy, driving score.
It's iconic.
It's iconic. It just adds this whole other layer of, I don't know, coolness and tension to everything.
And, it's not just Carpenter's, like signature sound.
Oh, no, there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually incorporates some East Asian musical influences in there, too.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So it's this blend of East meets West, just like the visuals.
It all ties together.
It all ties together, and it creates this really unique soundscape that, perfectly complements the visuals.
Speaking of soundscapes, did you know that Carpenter used an instrument called the synclavier for the score?
The synclavier?
The synclavier?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was this like crazy high-tech synthesizer back in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
And it could make, like, pretty much any sound you can imagine.
So, like, all those weird otherworldly sounds, that's the synclavier.
That's the synclavier, baby.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I love that. Always learning something new.
Me too. And here's something else I learned from Max and Riley on Retro Rewind that blew my mind.
Okay, hit me.
This movie, Big Trouble in Little China, it actually bombed at the box office when it first came out.
What? No way.
I know.
Really?
Really, it was considered a flop.
That's crazy. I mean, it's such a cult classic now.
I know, right? But back then, it didn't connect with audiences.
Wow. I wonder why.
Honestly, I think it was just too ahead of its time.
Maybe, yeah. It's so unique.
Yeah, it's so weird and different, and it subverts expectations in a way that, like, maybe people just weren't ready for.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
thankfully, over time, people caught on.
Yeah, through home video and word of mouth.
Exactly, and it found its audience, and it became this beloved cult classic that we know and love today.
It's a good reminder that, sometimes those hidden gems, they take a while to be discovered.
Yeah, sometimes the best things in life, you gotta dig a little deeper to find them.
That's a good point.
And speaking of digging deeper, we've got to unpack why this film became a cult classic and what its legacy is.
Oh, we have a lot more to explore for sure.
So stick around for part 2 of our deep dive.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be awesome.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're still exploring Big Trouble in Little China and all its weirdness.
We were talking about Jack Burton being that kind of like parody of the action hero, but I think there's more to him than just being clueless. Like, he's got this swagger, he's got the one-liners.
Right?
But there's a real heart to the guy, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's not just a caricature, right? He's got this vulnerability to him.
Vulnerability?
Yeah, like he's constantly out of his element. He's reacting to things instead of, being the one in control.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to admit when he doesn't understand something.
Yeah, which is most of the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. He's kind of like he's like a kid in a candy store, Except the candy store is filled with like demons and sorcerers and,
Right.
all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, and he just like wanders through it wide-eyed.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what makes him so relatable.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we, the audience, we're kind of experiencing this crazy world through his eyes.
Totally. We're along for the ride.
Yeah. And while he might think he's the hero, the movie makes it pretty clear that, like, the real strength lies with, guys like Wang Chi.
Oh, absolutely. Wang Chi is like the real deal.
The real deal.
Yeah, he's got the skills, the discipline, the focus.
Yeah.
Jack's just, kind of tagging along.
Tagging along, trying to keep up.
Exactly. And that contrast between them, that East meets West dynamic, it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, it's like a buddy cop movie where one cop is a Shaolin monk and the other one is
A trucker who thinks he knows kung fu.
Thinks he knows kung fu, yeah. And they're both like thrown into this crazy situation.
And somehow they have to work together.
They got to work together. And it's great because like the movie doesn't try to like force them into the same mold,
Right.
It celebrates their differences and it shows how those differences can actually be like strengths.
Yeah, it's a good message, I think, about like cultural understanding and collaboration.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's important to point out too that like even though the movie plays with some stereotypes, it never really crosses the line into like mockery.
No, it's all in good fun.
Yeah, it's all in good fun.
And it never feels mean-spirited,
No, totally. It's like it's poking fun at those stereotypes, but it's also celebrating them in a way.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance, but I think they pull it off really well.
Yeah, they do. Okay, we got to talk about the visual effects again, though.
Oh, the effects. They're so good.
They're so good. I mean, those underworld scenes, are you kidding me?
There's something else.
It's like a fever dream,
Totally. It's like, what were they on when they came up with this stuff?
Right, like floating sorcerers, guys with knives for hands, these giant creatures with like eyeballs all over their bodies.
And it's all practical,
Practical, yeah.
No CGI.
I know, it's amazing, right?
It's mind-blowing. Like, they actually built those creatures.
Wow, that's commitment.
It is. And it just adds to the whole, I don't know, the charm of the movie,
Yeah, the charm, the weirdness, the magic of it all.
Yeah, the magic. And it just feels more real.
Yeah.
more tangible.
More immersive. Yeah, totally. And I think that that kind of goes back to what we were saying before about like the practical effects versus CGI.
Yeah.
It feels different,
It does. And I think it allows you to like suspend your disbelief more. Because
Yeah.
it feels like it could actually exist, even though it's totally crazy.
It's like stepping into a comic book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A living, breathing comic book.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And speaking of bringing things to life, the music.
The music is so good.
John Carpenter, man, he's a genius.
He really is. That score is like the perfect blend of eerie and exhilarating.
Yeah, it's like it's got this energy to it that like just propels the movie forward.
Yeah, and it also has these moments of like playful whimsy.
Playful whimsy.
Yeah, which I think really reflects the movie's sense of humor.
Yeah, totally. It's like it's never taking itself too seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the things I love about it.
Me too.
It's just pure fun.
Pure fun. And I think the way that Carpenter blends those like traditional Chinese musical elements with his signature synth sound is just, it's masterful.
Yeah, it's so unique.
It really is. It creates this like sonic landscape that you just don't hear in any other movie.
It's so distinct.
It is.
Oh, okay, but I think like what really makes this movie so special is that like it embraces its own silliness.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
It doesn't take itself too seriously. Ow.
And that's what makes it so enjoyable, I think.
Yeah.
It's a movie that knows how to have fun.
Yeah, it winks at the audience.
Totally. It's in on the joke.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just pure like unadulterated entertainment.
It is. It's a celebration of genre tropes and, cultural clashes and like the power of friendship.
The power of friendship.
Yeah. And the joy of a good old-fashioned adventure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like underneath all the kung fu chaos and the quotable one-liners, there's also this like underlying message about, challenging assumptions and embracing the unexpected.
Yeah, like appearances can be deceiving.
Right.
And real heroism, it doesn't always come in the package you expect.
No, it doesn't. And Jack Burton might think he's the hero, but I think the movie makes it clear that like true strength often comes from, the most unlikely places.
Yeah, and it's not always about brute force or like swagger.
Yeah, it's about like courage and compassion and just like stepping up when it matters most.
And I think that's a message that like resonates just as strongly today as it did back in the 80s.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a timeless message.
It is.
Okay, so, Max and Riley on Retro Rewind, they posed this question, and it's something we wanted to like throw out to you too, like would a film like Big Trouble in Little China even get made today?
That's a good question. It's so unique.
It's so unique.
It's such a specific product of its time.
Yeah.
I mean, Hollywood loves its franchises, its reboots, its like safe bets.
Safe bets.
And Big Trouble in Little China, it's anything but safe,
It's wild. It's unpredictable.
Totally. It's like, it's unapologetically weird.
Unapologetically weird. Yeah. And it's like, in a world of pigeons, this is like this crazy, colorful bird,
Right. You can't help but notice it.
You can't help but notice it. But would a studio take a chance on something so original, so different today?
I don't know. It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Because like Hollywood is so risk averse these days.
Risk averse, yeah.
But, I do think there's this growing hunger for original content, Original content, yeah.
Like people want to see something new, something that breaks the mold.
Yeah, something different.
And Big Trouble in Little China, it definitely fits that bill, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it could inspire a whole new generation of filmmakers to, embrace their own unique visions.
To take risks.
Yeah, to create something bold and original and, just undeniably entertaining.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's definitely room for that kind of storytelling today.
I agree.
We need more movies that challenge our expectations, that make us laugh, that transport us to other worlds, even if those worlds are filled with, ancient sorcerers and
truckers who think they're kung fu masters.
Truckers who think they're kung fu masters, yeah. So what do you think? Would you like to see a modern take on Big Trouble in Little China?
I mean, I don't know about a direct remake.
Yeah.
But like a movie that captures that same spirit,
Yeah. Yeah, that same energy, that same willingness to like blend genres and embrace the absurd. Yeah, I think that would be amazing.
It would be amazing. So let us know what you think.
Yeah, hit us up on social media.
But before you do that, we gotta dive into the final part of our exploration here.
Okay.
We gotta unpack the lasting impact of this cult classic film.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've gone through all the mystical mayhem of Big Trouble in Little China, checked out the characters, and gotten a good look at the awesome visual effects. Now it's time to look at why people are still talking about this movie decades later.
You know, it's pretty interesting how this movie, which totally tanked at the box office, managed to find a second life and end up a cult classic.
Right, Big Trouble in Little China wasn't a hit when it came out.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It took people a while to get what it was all about, this quirky mix of action, humor, and the supernatural.
I think maybe people expected a straight-up action movie, and instead they got a truck driver for a hero who's more likely to trip over his own boots than lay the smack down on the villain.
For sure. The humor, the way it doesn't take itself too seriously, how it kind of makes fun of action movies. I think it was just a little too much for people back then.
But then, over time, people discovered it on home video, late-night TV, word of mouth.
Yeah.
Back then, there was no social media to make a clip go viral or anything.
No way. You had to actually tell people about it, share VHS tapes, make it a thing on your own.
Exactly.
And that's how Big Trouble in Little China slowly turned into a cult classic. People started quoting it, sharing it with friends, watching it over and over again. It became like this secret thing for people who got it, you know?
It's like a secret handshake. And it goes way beyond just the fans. You can see how Big Trouble in Little China influenced other movies and TV shows after it.
Absolutely.
Everything from that funny, don't-care attitude of Guardians of the Galaxy to the wild fight scenes in Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, that mix of action, comedy, and over-the-top characters, that's pure John Carpenter. You can see it everywhere.
It's like he planted a seed with Big Trouble, and that seed grew into, like, this giant tree that inspired filmmakers who weren't afraid to be different.
It showed that you could have a movie with heart, humor, and a ton of action while also poking fun at expectations and throwing in some magic.
So why does this movie still matter today? Why should someone who wasn't alive in the 80s care about a trucker fighting sorcerers?
I think Big Trouble in Little China shows that it's always good to be different, to go against the grain. It's like it's celebrating being yourself and showing that being unique is awesome, even if it makes you stand out.
It also shows that heroes can come from anywhere.
Right.
Jack Burton can be a bit of a fool, but he's also brave, loyal, and willing to put himself out there for his friends.
It shows that being strong isn't always about muscles or being perfect.
Sometimes it's about making mistakes and figuring things out as you go. It's about being brave enough to face your fears, even if those fears are like three-headed monsters and ancient curses.
Big Trouble in Little China is a movie that tells you to laugh at how crazy life can be, roll with the punches, and remember that the best adventures are the ones you didn't see coming.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want you to think about other cult classics that deserve another look.
What hidden gems are out there, just waiting for someone to find them?
There are so many movies out there with all kinds of voices and stories just waiting to be heard. Don't be afraid to look beyond the big blockbusters, find those offbeat movies, and discover the ones that really speak to you.
You might just find your own Big Trouble in Little China.
One that makes you laugh, think, and remember the magic of movies. Thanks for joining us on this trip through Big Trouble in Little China. Remember, it's all in the reflexes and in the power of a good story.